Welcome to the Wizard of Cause, your go-to podcast for social impact, where we speak to innovative businesses, how they give, and of course, the charities that they love and inspire them. Now, whether you're an entrepreneur, a startup founder, or a business professional looking to stay ahead of the curve, the Wizard will show you how to build lasting social impact on the world. Are you ready to grow, give, and be inspired? Let's get started.
Hey, are you looking to scale your business from five figures to six figures or six figures to seven figures? If you are, I have the perfect thing for you. What I want you to do today is I want you to go download a book. This book is going to take you through my 3-pillar system. It's 100% free. All you have to do is go to growfast.cash. I say again, go to growfast.cash, and you're going to be able to download my free international best-selling book, which is called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. You can take that book. It's going to help you scale your business to the next level. Again, go download it. Be good, be brief, be gone. Growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash. Enjoy.
So I am here today with a buddy of mine, Breckenridge, and he does an amazing thing. He gets to do what a lot of us, in our quiet hours wish we could do, and he works his faith on a daily basis. And I haven't seen this one before, but Breck, that map behind you isn't just a random map, is it? That's a real part of your life. Tell us, Breckenridge Merkle, tell us about your group, the Glory Project, and what it is that you do every day in your life.
Yeah, well, thanks for noticing that map in the back here.
It's huge. Come on.
Oh, it's huge, but we do that on purpose, because the Glory Project focuses right there in Asia, where you've got India, China, Thailand, all those countries down south into Indonesia, into what missiologists call the 1040 window, which is geographically located between the 10 and 40 degrees north of the equator, where most of the unreached people groups live. And so the Glory Project is all about mobilizing nationals to continue to reach those people groups with the gospel of Christ. And man, it's just awesome to see what God is doing in that part of the world.
It's not a small part of the world, right?
No, it's not.
That is not a small landmass. There's a YouTuber, and he's British, and lives in America, and he answers a lot of British UK questions about, that people there have about America. And they think we're kind of a little small or a little retro because we travel so much inside the US. And they're like, why aren't you traveling outside? And he said,
Yep.
You have no idea how big the United States is, right? When it can take 3 and 4 days to go from one side to the other in a car going 70, 80 miles an hour. He converts it to kilometers. He's like, in the UK, in 45 minutes, you can go to France or Germany, or what have you. But Asia is just not the small landmass, right? It's not one of the tinier ones on the map. Why is this so important? Why is this such a key goal for Glory Project?
Well, it's because a majority of the population in the world lives within that area. You've got 1.3 billion alone in India, expected in a couple of years to be 1.5, and then
oh, really? I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy. So it's exponential growth there. And so, within that also, with all these unreached people groups there, we have a great opportunity to not only share the message of Jesus, but be the feet and hands of Jesus in that part of the world, and helping these people who don't have the same opportunity here, just give them that opportunity to be raised up and make a difference in their community. So not big, okay. And it's far from where we are, but let me tell you, it's fun when you get there. It'll change your life.
So if we're doing that, I mean, obviously we know the reason for for day to day missions work, right? I mean, it's kind
Yeah.
of we're given the Great Commission. The work is put on us,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
The work is put on us, right? I'm not
There
doing
was
it
no
all.
plan B or C with the Lord. It was put on us. We are
Right,
to go.
there's the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few, and you're like, pick up your rake and your hoe, and I want you to go clear across to the other side of the planet and work one of the largest land masses, that exists on the planet. You used a word earlier, and I have a pretty good vocabulary. I have a pretty good internal lexicon there. You said missiologist.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Tell me that word again.
So a missiologist is someone who has studied missions and both historically and modern day missions to track where the gospel and the church has grown and went into the world.
Got it.
And
Got it.
that's kind of
Missiologist.
my background. That's what I love doing, seeing how the kingdom of God is growing and moving and where we need to keep advancing in areas where it is not yet there. And so, that's why I threw out that term.
Why is this so important for what the Glory Project is doing? I mean, I know it's easy to feel it internally and know the work that you're doing, and it can be easy to sometimes not see the forest for the trees. But if you were going to say this is the main reason that the Glory Project put so much time and effort and the sheer bulk of its resources here, why is that?
Well, it's because they're in Asia, especially South Asia, India, Southeast Asia. It's like the last frontier of missions.
Hmm.
It's where you have the least amount of churches. It's where you have the least amount of access to the gospel. It's one of the most hardest places on earth to share with restrictions and persecution that's happening on the few believers that are there. And so that's why our bulk of resources and focus is in that part of the world because it's where the church needs to grow the most. It's the last frontier using the Star Trek analogy. Like I said,
I'll
we're going
take it. I'll
and
take
it's
it.
gone before. No, we've had missionaries go into villages where no man has gone before, didn't even know they existed. And then, like the government in India, we then went back and told them, hey, you have these like 12 villages here. And then they come back and they pave a road. They didn't even know these people were there.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
the kind of the last frontier type talk that I'm referring to.
I'm sorry. That is too rich a thing. I need you to
Yeah.
back up and say that again. You've got teams
Hmm.
that have met people in, for example, India, in
Hmm.
villages where apparently, well, I mean, some man's been there before, but it's the men and women, children that live there, right? But
Live there.
apparently
Hmm.
not outside things. And the government didn't know they were there. And then when you come back, they sent a road there because now they know about it.
Yep, correct. Yeah, it's
I mean, it sounds like something a
India,
gamer
man,
finds
the
on
Bondi
secret
tribe.
hidden part of the map of a game he's been playing for 2 months, and he unpacks a new area, and they get some kind of weird sword or superpower or whatever, some artifact there, but you're
Mhm.
opening up parts of the world that the government itself doesn't necessarily know as an official place of its people there. That alone is amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So, and then our guys are happy because then when the road gets paved, it's easier for them to go back.
Oh, incredible. Yeah, yeah. No, 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 no. Well, I mean, Rome, right? That was one of Rome's two superpowers. They built roads and they built aqueducts, so
Yep.
they got water, clean water, and they could move troops and people, and of course commerce. And when they do that, quality of life. I sat on the board for a jail ministry for
Okay.
years and years, and it's hard to oversell how important talking to somebody and meeting people where they were, including jail, right? You want to talk about a rich mission field.
Hmm.
Um, and their claim to fame was the number 80%, right? And that's 4 out of 5. 80% of the men and women that they talked to in their program never saw the inside of a jail again.
Mm.
And I'm like, you don't have to have faith. You don't have to have a believer to sit there and say, there's something there. There's some pith, right? There's something, of substance, for it to change somebody's life so radically. And they would jokingly say, they would say, have you ever seen an old Andy Griffith show? We've all seen Andy Griffith, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've all
Mm-hmm.
seen that. By the way, side note, Otis the town drunk, right? He
Yep.
was a teetotaler. He did not drink, but he played a good drunk, and nobody knows that. But they would jokingly say, right, small town, they're
Mm-hmm.
justice of the peace, the sheriff, and his jail all in one. They've got 3 cells, small cells, and they're empty. And one of them is used by the town guy, as he's sleeping it off. And they're like, they want to empty the jails. That was their whole thing. And I think it's amazing that you're going that far and establishing ultimately new roads, even if somebody else builds it, um, with people on the far side of the world, right? I mean, to us, it might as well be the dark side of the moon. Can you? I always like a little bit of a one-on-one story, like
Yeah.
I told years ago. I was working with a no-kill dog shelter. I'm a dog fan, and I say if you don't like, puppies, your soul might be a dry, empty husk, and I'll lend you a puppy for the afternoon, right? Um,
Mhm.
uh, but they would talk in banquet numbers. Hey, every year, 13,000 dogs in our community, and I love dogs, but golly, that's dry and boring. And I'd say, no, no, tell me about one dog, right? And
Yep.
they said, well, here's a picture of Toby the puppy half frozen in Michigan winter ditch. And all of a sudden, your heart, like, is he okay? Did he make it? Can you tell me something, like a Glory Project, and, somebody, how it's impacted them, how it's worked in their lives, um, and where they've come back and they've said, this is what's happening now?
Yeah, of course, man. All across Asia, it's exciting to see how the Lord, uses native missionaries and nationals
Mhm.
to go to the last frontier and plant churches where there are none and take the gospel in those areas, and in so doing, see lives transformed by the Spirit of God that only He can do, work that He does from the inside out within the inside of individuals. And so, one of our countries in the close country of Burma, a dear friend of mine came to faith several years ago. And, after being kicked out of his village, after being forced out of his village for several years, um, the Lord just kept tugging at his heart to go back and be a light, go back and love on the people that he grew up with, love on the mom and dad who kicked him out, love on, the brothers and sisters that are there, and just be a vessel of Jesus in that place. And within a year and a half being there, his younger brother came to faith, and then another younger brother came to faith. And then the Lord gave him a vision, just start an orphanage for orphans that were affected by the Civil War that's been happening there for the last 2 years.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and there's 20 kids there now that he's loving on and that his wife is now ministering to, that they're just taken care of. And the
I love
villager,
the verb loving on somebody. I'm
yeah,
loving on them,
yeah,
right?
yeah, you loving on them, right? I mean, that's what we're called to do as ministers of Jesus, and wherever we're at. So it's really cool to see that now the people who kicked him out are now welcoming him and saying, wow, your life has changed and you are coming here and
That's
making a
incredible.
difference in our community. Not even our village chief, not even the government, no one else is helping these children in crisis, but you came and you're here, actively showing compassion and love and meeting the needs of our own.
That Man, that knocks my feelings a little bit loose. That is exactly, what a person likes here. That's incredible.
Yeah.
I You just got to take a second on that and really digest it.
Mm.
Kicked out, right? Prodigal son his way right out, and now he's, not only welcome back, he's running the orphanage. He's doing a much harder work. Um,
Mhm.
but you when you're given much, you find out you want to give, and that's a wonderful thing. I'm in a
Mhm.
group, and they said, in India, there's no real um, there's not like retirement homes. There's no uh, so much taking care of the elderly. And he said, especially in the poor little villages, because the children will get up, they'll move into the cities um, to get work,
Yeah.
make more money, but then their parents who are older and feeble left back in the village, and they don't have a way to take care of them. And I love to see, this young, this man, and he comes back, and he's on the other end of the spectrum, but he's taking in an orphanage, working the orphanage and taking care of these children. That's incredible. And especially in different areas where there's where there's so much persecution. And
Mm-hmm.
China is such a hotbed. You must be doing something if they're going to send police to your church and record people. And we've seen that, right? The pastor
Yeah.
of my own church has gone and visited a church that he's been, which is just inside an apartment building, right? It's all apartments there. Um, and the existing pastors have been in jail now for the past 2 years. Um, but they send police, they take pictures, they track people, they record people.
Mhm. Well, I mean,
You've got
well,
to
in
be
the
afraid of something
in,
if you're putting that kind of effort into
oh yeah, for
stamping it
sure.
out, huh?
Yeah, well, when that I don't know if you've ever heard of the little country of Bhutan, which is right south of China.
Yeah.
We just had a group meet last week, and the local authorities just shut off their water supply because they were there worshiping the Lord. They were there as the church praising His name, and they've shut it off, and it hasn't been turned on here a week and a half later. So yeah, I mean that's a small sacrifice, so to speak, for them, but that's something that the folks who are actively sharing Jesus and being His hands and feet in that part of the world just um, count the cost and are faithful, man. So
I say there must be something there if you're working that hard to silence it, stamp it out, do whatever, right? I mean,
hmm hmm
as somebody said years ago, in the civil rights movement, um, the worst things that the people that did not want the civil rights movement to take place is all the effort they really did to stamp it out. If they had been super quiet about it, if they had ignored it, if they turned a blind eye, it could have probably taken another decade, another 2 decades. But instead, they sick dogs on people. They had cops bust up, areas where peaceful protesters are being drug out. They shot people with water hoses, and all that did was bring more and more attention, right? And you end up peeling the proverbial onion to get deeper layers. And people are saying, why is this going on? If somebody's just sitting in at a lunch counter, they're not doing anything, and they're being drug off, they're being hit with a billy club, they're being shot with a water hose, or having German shepherds, sicked on them for sitting
hmm
down at a lunch counter.
hmm
Why? Right? Well, they must have done something. They must have done something to incite this. And then you find out they're being peaceful. They're sitting there, and you bring 10 times more attention to it than anything else, right?
hmm
And so eventually, governments government shifting, government changing, and people changing, and God bless
Yeah.
them for it.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, in India, they're ramping up their persecution against the church because for the first time in history, the Hindu population, or those who have Hindu as their religion, fell below 80%. And so you see the Lord moving, you see the church growing, And then there's a red flag of those who are afraid of what the growth of God's kingdom will do. And so then they take it, radically. Okay, we've got to stamp this out, to your point. We've got to do something to stop the movement. But honestly, that just keeps it growing because that causes those who have made that decision to trust in Jesus just lean into him all the more because they've seen that he is the way, the truth, and the life, and that he's walking with them through it. And so they even are more courageous in their faith.
That's awesome.
Looking to grow your business beyond 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures plus, what I want you to do is go download this book. The title is called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. It will help you grow your business past 5, 6, and 7 figure. Go download the book today, growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash, and download the book for absolutely free.
Yeah.
I hate that they take the persecution, but I said to somebody years ago, I said, I'm glad of the persecution, and they're like, "Are you insane? Are you right?" And are you just masochistic? I said, no. I said because it means there's something real that's actually happening. And it means it always, always, always draws attention. So let me ask you a question. What's the main kind of blessings and help and everything that people can do to help the Glory Project? And don't say tickets to China. Or it might be, a little airfare once in a while, right? Right.
I mean, every now and then, prices keep increasing. The
Right.
the oil and everything, but no, I think what's most important for people to know is to come alongside, pray for the church that's in Asia, pray for the national believers that are there, that they would remain faithful in persecution.
Right.
And go into places where the gospel has never gone before. Our unique spin is that we are training up, sending out, and mobilizing native missionaries. So these are nationals, these are indigenous people to India, to Thailand, to Bhutan, Indonesia, who are going into the unreached areas, into the last frontier. And what's so awesome about that is that, I lived in Burma for 10 years as a missionary, a foreign missionary. And we always joked, if we had short-term teams
You lived
come.
in Burma.
Yep.
10 years.
10 years. It was amazing. I loved it. It was not without its pain and heartache. And one of those things is what I often referred to teams who came and visited, Burma belly. I said, if you don't leave Burma with some type of diarrhea or issue, then you have not faithfully fulfilled your calling while here. You need to leave with Burma belly. And have some weird tropical disease in you.
You were selling this, I'm telling you.
I'm trying, man. No,
this is a late night, TV commercial. And if you act now, you can get Burma belly and mess up your insides for a couple of days, for a couple of weeks.
But people remember it, right? But our unique spin then is, well, if you don't want Burma belly, people who live there and are nationals there, they never get Burma belly because they know the food, they know the language, they know the culture. And so God has strategically placed them there as the church to be his feet and his hands, to be the vocal piece of the gospel. And so being able to have that as our focus in training those people up and sending them out to start multiplying healthy churches, people here in the States can come on board and pray for them and get them out there as full time for just $200 a month is all, people, financially give to be able to send someone full time, but then be able to join them on mission.
That little?
That little. There's, because they're serving full time in the villages.
Our specialty is we try to get businesses, and we've done it pretty successfully because to get businesses to donate, right? And they put their philanthropy on automatic. Because I always say a person might give you 20, 50, $100, but a business might give you 100, 500, 1,000, $5,000 or $10,000 a month, right? Which is awesome. $200, what does $200 do in the Glory Project?
$200 a month helps us send a full-time missionary to the field to work full-time in the villages sharing the gospel. And so this takes care of basically a family of 4 to 6, right? Their kids,
Holy moly!
be able to go and do that. And then we
Four
have
to six live on $200.
Yep, and that's pretty good in several of these places to live on. So
We are living on the floor of the palace and we don't even know it, man.
oh yes.
$200, not for a person. I thought, is that I was about to say, will that do a man and a wife? Will that do you know a father or mother and a child, right? You know not a 2-year-old, but a 10, 15, 18-year-old child, going out
Oh yeah.
and but family of 4 to 6 on
Well, I
200.
mean, we have one missionary. I think he's got 9 kids. But he's got a little farm that he can cultivate as well. So
Okay, all right.
we try to, long term also talk with the missionaries, talk with our partners about putting a small micro like business into place so they become self-sustaining here in the future as well. So that's part of what we call our church planning plan, a 3 to 5 year plan to help them get self-sufficient and on their own to continue that task.
I got to tell you, the last time we talked, I didn't even get this out, and it kind of blows me away of our own little inner vanity, because like the old proverbial Dr. Livingston, I presume, lost in the deepest, darkest areas of Africa when
Africa,
they
yeah.
found somebody looking for him. It's it's not it's not some guy who's living, in the heart of or Georgia or Illinois or someplace going over there. It's people, although you spent 10 years, but it's getting people from right there. You're sourcing locally. to, and why not, right? They have
Yeah.
the language, they have the nuance, of the language, and the syntax, the metaphors that you and I
Yep.
would be able to use all day long, but that much more easily if they understand the core message and what they're doing. How much better? While you're sitting there saying that, there's such a movement nowadays for eating food that's grown locally, right? A
Yeah.
lot of people are saying it's literally physically better for Will Black to eat food grown in and around, within a 10, 15-mile radius of where I am right now, because it's where I eat, breathe, and drink, right?
Mhm.
And I'm a part of my own ecosystem. But to take people from their own ecosystem and then put them towards the Glory Project so that they have that much better. Well, it's a lot easier for somebody not to get Burma belly if they're born and
It is,
raised there. They can
they're naturally Burma Belly people. So yeah.
right, right. It's
Um,
you and me going and getting a corn dog, and right. This is unless this is a bad batch, right? This isn't going to exactly wreck my system.
yeah.
Although, if you went
Well,
to Taco Bell,
to that point of people serving in, their own ecosystem, and in their own culture. In our network in Thailand, just the other day, I was on a meeting with the network leader, and he said, Breck, the gospel's been in Thailand for over 100 years, and you are the first foreign missionary I've ever met who is entrusting us in finishing the task and letting us
that is
pursue God's dream for our country. And that really struck my heart to the soul, because it hurt.
take off the training wheels at a certain point, right?
Yeah, you do.
I
You've
mean, how
got
vain
to
are we?
pass the
No, I got to
baton.
hold your hand.
Yeah.
I've got a 10 and a 13-year-old, but if they're 39 and daddy's still cutting their meat for them, there's a problem, right?
Oh yeah. hmm
That
And that's exactly what we're doing, passing the baton, releasing them, asking them to pray about how to get the gospel in areas where it's not reached. And so, in Thailand, him and his team have a vision of 100 churches by 2035. started in that place.
Right. Wow.
And
Wow. Wow.
that's our whole philosophy, is going to them. What is your vision? What is your God dream? How can we together then make this happen? And it is exciting to see just the Lord move in ways that we've honestly never seen before. Like I said, I lived 10 years in Burma, loved it, saw God begin a movement among an unreached people group from 4 churches to 14, but knew that, this white guy who's a stranger from America doesn't have the answers, and I don't know the culture, and I'm always going to be considered an outsider, maybe a welcomed outsider, but always an outsider.
Right.
But they are the insiders who will finish the task, as we wait to see the Lord return, and all these people welcome him and his, by knowing and trusting in his son Jesus.
Now you are raising up people there to do the work there, right?
Yep.
And I think there's a real thing there, right? You feed them baby food when they're young. They should be able to eat meat when they're older, right? And that's that's part of the whole thing. But at the same time, there are people here that are going to be inspired by what you're doing. How can they get involved? How can they help the Glory Project?
Yeah, I mean, well, people could come and choose to sponsor one of these missionaries at that $200 mark, and then when they do so, they get regular reports from the field and prayers and testimonies from that individual and his family of how God is using them, and so they're able to have that personal connection with that individual. But beyond that, people can get involved by joining us on mission. We try to do 3 to 4 trips a year for people to actually go over there and be a part of what God is doing. Maybe they leave with Burma Belly. Maybe they don't.
We'll cut out
I try to
Burma Belly. Don't watch that
for Burma Belly, but not a guarantee. But we're called as Christians to go and, like you said, make disciples, and that's of all nations. That's of all people groups. And so any mature Christian in Christ, I believe, should at least go on mission trips in some fashion, even if it's just once in their lifetime, to see how God's kingdom grows in the world and to see different facets of how the church is growing and worshiping in different contexts. So yeah, come on and pray and join us in sponsorship, but also join us on mission as well. Is a great way for people to get involved in what God is doing through the native missionaries.
I had both of my grandfathers, my maternal and paternal grandfather, was both in World War II. One was Air Force and one was Navy. And I've been told, you have no concept of how you live compared in context against the rest of the planet. Right? And and maybe a third, if we're absolutely lucky, is remotely close to us. He says, you have no idea what protection, what blessing you sleep under every night of your life. The thoughts that you don't have to have, that most of the rest of the world do. Right? Yeah. And they're not even getting into the point of just the freedoms, speech, the freedom to go to church and worship freely, as we want, without being harassed or bullied or having our water turned off to the entire, section.
I mean, there's people who, to that point, wake up every day and don't know when their next meal is coming from, reference to that. In Glory Project, we've got 5 orphanages scattered throughout Asia, and I got 4 kids of my own, and they open the fridge and they're like, Dad, what do I have for dinner? Like, there's about 10 options in there that we can choose from. And we've got
200 years ago, kings did not have the options you have, right? Are you kidding?
Yeah. And so I tell them I could name off kids in our orphanages who today it's going to be dal and rice. It's going to be eggplant and rice, and that's it. And my kids say,
they consider themselves still pretty blessed.
I know you've taken us there, and we know that we are blessed. But And so just being able to see the church here in America and in the West just go and see and meet those needs is huge, because we get so ethnocentric. We get so focused on where we are now that we forget the worldview, the wider worldview that I think God wants us to have in regards to his kingdom.
So, finally,
Yep.
if somebody is remotely curious about this, about the Glory Project, where can they go?
Well, they could go to thegloryproject.com or
Mhm.
thegloryproject.net, and there discover our vision, discover missionaries that need sponsorship as well. Or they can text 719-292-1400, type info, type give, whatever is there, and then we will be able to connect you to the website and next opportunities for how to get involved. So those are the
Awesome.
two ways that people can get there.
Okay, so we're going to put that information and your main links right below us,
Okay, cool.
and you can click on that. I'd like to heavily encourage anybody. Again, like I said, if you're a person, and if you're not, what are you? What are you, right? But as a person, it's one thing, to give a little bit of money. However, we forget that we can make it where our business can take on and can automate our philanthropy.
Yeah.
And we show businesses painlessly, right, out of fees that they're already paying, how they can redirect portions of their fees. It has only worked to the tune of millions of dollars. The Glory Project is one of those things that if you give to it, it's just hard to feel bad about because you do so much life-changing things. And I'm going to tell 10 people the next couple of days about the guy that went from being kicked out to now running the orphanage, loving on, these 20 kids, being
Yeah.
accepted by friends, family, elders of his area. That is
Yeah.
a heartwarming story. Breck, in closing, anything you got to put in there? Hit us right a cheap sucker punch to the emotional breadbasket real quick.
Well, I mean, there's just one thing, you just talked about how business can give through sharing the credit there, and be able to give to these awesome charitable causes, and how great would it be to, as a business person and owner, to have your impact not only be here in the States but worldwide. And so the Glory Project creates that avenue whereby you can say, hey, look at the impact that our business is giving, not just here, but is having, in Asia, having in some of these closed countries where the church is continuing to grow, but where the church faces much persecution. And so how awesome would that be to see businesses just have that greater vision for what they're doing. This one last story is I want to share about Billy Graham. He's 6 years old. He's one kid in one of our orphanages. We just had 21 kids arrive down south due to the war in Burma. And they came to one of our national partners, not knowing what in the world to do, not knowing if they would be cared for, but just trying to flee from the fact that their villages were being burned. Mom and dad were killed during the war, and they just had to go somewhere. So they just arrived at literally the little bamboo hut that one of our national partners lives in, and says, hey, we need help. And so then Glory Project got things in place to care for them. Now we've got some land to be able to build a center for them to live in. But Billy Graham is there, 6 years old, given that name because he has that smile and that passion to just.
I got stuck on Billy. So Billy Graham's here. He's 6. I'm like, he went when he was 6.
Yeah. So, and so he's like, and so he just loves people. And so that was the name. And so, I just think about him and think about how, God's got a great future for that guy. Maybe he's going to be that Billy Graham of Burma who leads that next generation to Christ. And so people, yeah, go ahead.
I come back to this thought
Yeah.
so often because I was told this and there are two wills. There's one before this statement, there's one after it. And that was anybody, almost any child can count the number of seeds in an apple, but only God can count the number of apples in one apple seed, right?
Mm-hmm.
because that seed can grow a tree. It can grow apples. Each one grows trees and apples. Some will flourish, some will die off. How many apples, though, will come from a single seed? And I'm like, if they found a village and then they go back and there's a road paved to it, but they're talking to them, they associate it with the blessings that they've already been to. They're flourishing a little better, but then they have this word and this water and this spirit working in their heart. We have no idea how much a few dollars can make one little apple seed in somebody's heart, and how many will grow from that.
Mm-hmm.
Breck, I love what you do. Like I said, you're in a safe space here because I'm a big fan. Don't hurt your finger pointing at that map again. Breck works that map so hard he had to tape up his finger. That's not true. That was a little kitchen accident.
I'm always pointing there, always saying, "Okay, here's where we need to go." And
I was, but that's the new one
where several nationals were working. So,
if you have any questions, or you'd like to talk to Breck or one of his team, if you'd like to help or get a couple of families to help and adopt one of these small groups, or even most especially if you have a business. And you would like to automate your philanthropy and see if you could take over a small group and find out how many apples are in that one apple seed of work that you did, look below, click below, and we'd love to see that support. Breck, thanks again for hanging out with me. Not the first time, but I always love talking to you, and I love what you do. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, brother. Appreciate it. It's been a blast.
That wraps up today's episode of The Wizard of Dogs. We hope you've enjoyed the insights and ideas shared in today's conversation. Now, if you found value in this episode, don't forget to subscribe and tell us how we're doing. Your feedback helps us bring you more content that matters. And of course, stay connected with us for updates, tips, and more. Until next time, keep giving, take care, and keep making an impact.
Magnum! Holy moly.
Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for!
Dear God, it's beautiful.